Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Yarns with Andy. Today, I'm joined by Nick Leggett, who's an ex-mayor, who was a real estate agent as well in his past, and who's currently the CEO of Infrastructure New Zealand and the current chair of Wellington Water. Welcome, Nick.
How are you, Andy? Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you, mate. No. Thank you for making the time for being here. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Sure. My day job is, as you say, working for Infrastructure New Zealand, which is telling the story of infrastructure in our nation, how it affects people's lives, how we can do it better, get better value for money, get infrastructure built faster so communities and business and the country as a whole can enjoy its benefits. And look, I don't need to tell you, we're going to dive into it, but we have some challenges with infrastructure in this country and we've got to confront them.
Well, challenges is putting it very lightly, and that's an understatement, I reckon. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get into them. So, how do you fit into being the chair of the chair in Wellington Water? What sort of role do you play there?
Well, it probably goes back a little bit to my local government days. I got elected to the Aotearoa City Council when I was 19.
As the youngest mayor? No,
I was the youngest councillor at that point, and then I got elected mayor when I was 31, and I was the youngest mayor for 2 terms. In New Zealand. I stepped down and then ran for the Wellington mayoralty where I lost. So I'd had this governance career, community and governance career. I worked in commercial property, as you also said, and really I wanted to keep the governance going because I think some people are very subject matter experts, particularly in the infrastructure industry, and they're good at the granular thinking and the operational thinking. I tend to be someone who thinks up here, and that goes along with personality type and political career. But actually, I've still got drivers, things that I find really important. And look, infrastructure's always been really at the centre of what I've done. I mean, it's what brings you into politics often. Not, you wouldn't say bricks and mortar, but actually infrastructure as an enabler of communities, of neighbourhoods to be successful, for businesses to thrive and employ people. So it is at the heart of everything I've ever done, and it's an ongoing kind of driver for me.
Yeah, I mean, infrastructure is very important to New Zealand. It's the backbone of the New Zealand economy in multiple different ways. So in saying that, let's jump straight into it, right? Let's get into what, from your perspective, what you believe are some of the key challenges with infrastructure in New Zealand.
Well, the key challenges are we don't get enough value for what we invest, so things cost too much, and that's not the fault of any one industry or any one party. It's because we don't have an embedded pipeline. We don't have funding lined up in different and mature ways of funding infrastructure, and we don't look after what we've got well enough. So when we talk about an infrastructure deficit, that part of that deficit is what we haven't built and what we need to build, but actually 60% of it is what we haven't looked after, the assets that we haven't invested in. And you mentioned I do chair Wellington Water.
Yes.
That is a governance role. Some would correctly state that they'd rather probably poke out their eyes with a stick, but actually because it's controversial, it's in a difficult place. Water is controversial. I've got sort of hands-on experience around where assets that haven't been looked after, haven't been invested in. As a former mayor, I can probably take some of the responsibility for that, but over decades, we've lost sight. We build stuff, we set and we forget. We build and then we just think, it'll take care of itself.
It's a simple maintenance plan will fix that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But you can have a maintenance plan. You've got to actually invest in it, don't you?
And yet we still have a boatload of leaky pipes.
Yeah, that's
Why?
right. But because we haven't ever developed a mindset. We're a small country, small scale. Stuff has tended to be built quite recently. We've done a patchy job of looking after it, and actually most of the time it still works. And then when it
well, it'll have to, because the ratepayers are paying for it. Right? The ratepayers are paying for it.
Well, but it won't work forever, will it? That's the point.
Okay. So what's the plan moving forward? You reckon what should be the plan moving forward to maintain our existing assets? If you reckon we're not doing a good job.
Well, it starts with mindset, right? It starts with when you put money aside to renew and maintain assets, you actually spend it on those very tasks. You've got good planning functions. You know when an asset is close to or the end of its life.
Yep.
You know when to intervene and renew it. You have a really good planning and judgment function, and you connect the work you're doing with everything else that needs to be maintained in the environment as well. And you recognise the risk of not doing it. And the risk might be failure, so stuff doesn't work. It might be environmental impact. If you think about wastewater pipes, the last thing you want, or a failing sewage treatment plant, the last thing you want is for it not to work, because the environment is really badly affected. And I suspect that's happening in a lot of places around the country, and we don't really know about it too much. And so that's why we think about solutions. The last government had 3 waters. This government has local water done well, but it is about bringing together, a lot of the assets that are owned by councils, and having new entities where you can really put together the expertise and the skill sets to be able to invest long term in renewal and really taking whole of network sort of approaches to improving the services you deliver in communities. That going alongside that is just the funding element. We do have to spend more, and I think there is this kind of
spend more, but the money has to come from somewhere.
That's right. But
yes, okay.
But part of the
before
mindset,
before we get any further, are you saying we are not doing a good job of maintaining our assets?
Generally, I don't think we are. I think there are elements of New Zealand's assets. Those tend to be privately owned, or at least partially privately owned and regulated by the government. So if you think about telecommunications and energy and electricity, those are areas I think where we do quite a good job. I think we've got everything lined up on transport. We just sometimes don't spend the money on maintenance. But I was just going to say,
our roads are pretty top notch, right? I don't know. The roads are pretty good.
Did you not notice at the last election when National got elected on spending $500 million on pothole repair? That came from public opinion, right?
Yes.
So, look, we do build good roads.
Generally speaking, our roads are in pretty decent shape. That's my opinion, but
we do build.
I'm
good
not backing
roads.
it by facts, but yeah.
Yeah, no, we do build good roads, but I'll give you an example. 7 years. Between about 2017 and 2023, our state highway network was depreciated on NZTA's books by $2.5 billion. Are
you serious?
They only spent $1 billion, though, on maintenance and renewal. So there was a big gap. And what we saw, to go back to the national government before this one, they built great roads of national significance. You're quite right, really good roads. But they didn't add extra money to do that. They just robbed the maintenance and renewal budgets of the highways to build the new roads.
You're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Exactly, and that in real terms, but those budgets have never been restored. But
isn't that what politics is all about? You're robbing Peter to pay Paul all the time.
Well, that might be a reality, but is it one that we want to put up with?
No, God no. Okay, so then that leads really well into what I want to ask you next. Where's the vision?
Yeah, absolutely. That's
where's the vision for New Zealand?
Yeah, where is it?
Okay, so you've been part of the Labour Party, you've been part of the National Party, right? You've got views from both sides of the fence, which is quite good. There's barely any bipartisan agreement today for a common vision for infrastructure in New Zealand. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that, and you're quite right. I mean, I sort of sit in the political centre, and some people might say that's a cop-out, but actually, what we want, there's good on both sides, and what we want to do is pull the benefits of the centre-right and the benefits of the centre-left and bring them together, the common elements, because there are a lot of common elements.
For the benefit of New Zealand.
For the benefit of New Zealand. So
yes,
we want
that's
stability.
Something I'm passionate about.
We want stability.
Yep, not changing the vision every 3 years.
Exactly.
Because we keep changing the vision every 3 years. It's ridiculous. I actually challenged Minister Chris Penk on that too. And I said, where's the vision for New Zealand? I keep asking the same question. I do not get a straight answer from a single politician about where the vision for New Zealand is in terms of New Zealand infrastructure.
Can I counsel you here, Andy?
Please. Mate, like I said earlier, this is a learning platform for me as much as it is for anybody else. I love this.
This is just my view. But
please,
if we're expecting politicians to come up with vision and act in a bipartisan way to keep some stability in our infrastructure pipeline, we're asking the wrong people. Actually, there are enough intelligent, sensible, smart, resourceful New Zealanders who know that if we plan our infrastructure and we have a pipeline, and to be fair to the government and to Chris Bishop, that's what he's wanting to drive. But if we think, and we know, look, we did a report a couple of years ago with Brad Olsen at Infometrics. If New Zealand had stability in its pipeline, we would get up to between $2 and $5 billion a year of efficiencies and productivity gains from our infrastructure build. So stability allows the private sector.
I'd say you get more than that.
You could get more, right?
I'd say you get more than that.
I'm happy to be conservative.
Let's run a sample scenario, right? I'm a multi-billion-dollar super contractor that wants to come to New Zealand. Give me a reason to come to New Zealand.
You would only come to New Zealand if you saw stability in the pipeline.
Agreed.
That if you invest.
Let's work that scenario through, right? I go into what would I do? I do my research as a multi-billion-dollar corporation, right? I want to come in and become PPP partners in New Zealand, for instance, right? Okay, and I want to invest in this country. Cool. I go into the Infrastructure Commission New Zealand's website. What do I see? Okay, a small patch of road there, a little pipe upgrade there.
That's right.
Okay, and somewhere down the country we're upgrading a water treatment plant.
Yeah.
Okay. You give me patchwork, mate.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I call patchwork. Right. Where is the vision? A vision for me would be, Nick, I'll tell you very clearly what a vision would be for me. A vision would be when my child's 7 years old now, right? Okay. So in the next 10 years when he goes to university, I'd expect to get to Wellington in 30 minutes. Is that high-speed rail? Is that amazing highways like the Autobahn where I can drive at 140 kilometers, which is really, really safe? I don't know, mate. I can't get to Wellington by road in 40 minutes, but you get the point, right? Or Hamilton, whatever, right? Or is it improving our airport infrastructure? Where are we putting our efforts into? Because we seem to keep putting our efforts into bit here, bit there. Nothing's happening.
What's the plan?
Exactly. What's the plan?
What you're talking about, I think, is a plan. And the Infrastructure Commission are releasing their 30-year strategy and the plan that comes along with it. And
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, well, look, they've got the draft out, and you can comment on it. But
can you?
Yeah, I think what we need to do though is think about what kind of country do we want to become.
Agreed.
Okay, so let's pick an arbitrary date. 2050 because it's easy, and we've grouped a lot of stuff, or maybe make it 2060. How's New Zealand going to grow? Because when we look at our per capita earnings internationally, we look at comparable countries, Ireland, Denmark, Singapore. Now, 6 million people roundabout, same as us.
We're not comparable to Singapore, are we?
Well, only in population.
Only in population, yep.
These aren't direct comparables, right? But they're small countries that punch well above their weight. And they've got geography going for them and a whole lot of other, the EU in a couple of cases and massive surrounding markets. But what's New Zealand going to be about? What are we going to specialise in? How are we going to be economically resilient? How are we going to build up against climate challenges that are coming? How are we going to build our infrastructure to do that? How are we going to build our infrastructure so it's an economic platform so we can grow our wealth and be competitive and sell to international markets? That question for me is unanswered. And yet, look, it strays a little bit away from infrastructure, not entirely, because infrastructure is that platform, as you say, it's that bedrock for economic and social progress. But there's no clear articulation of that vision. And if you look at what's happening at the moment, we're doing a good job of dividing ourselves. We're not coming together as a country. We are being pulled to extremes. And that,
why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's a worldwide phenomenon. I mean, there are lots of reasons for it.
Trump.
Well, Trump, is he a symptom or is he a cause? Social media.
He's just upsetting the balance.
Yeah, well, that's right.
And he's doing a good job of that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if it's about upsetting the apple cart, he is doing a good job.
Yeah.
And he's challenging some norms. But look, New Zealand, we're small. We need to be united if we're going to prosper. And it doesn't mean agreeing on everything, because I've also got the view that we don't have confronting discussions here. We let stuff simmer under the surface, and when it comes to making a decision on something that's really important, everybody goes to their respective corners and we don't talk about things. So setting a vision is about really uncovering what's different and unique and competitive about our nation. And at the moment,
and make New Zealand appealing to live in.
Make New Zealand appealing to live in.
Because
what are the building blocks? Well, you tell me. What are the building blocks that make you want to live here? For your kid?
I'm an immigrant.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So you've chosen to live here.
Yes.
And you've chosen to stay.
Yes.
Why?
Absolutely. Okay. So when I came to New Zealand first, I came here with the vision that it wasn't a vision. I came here to do my masters, and I wanted to get out back to Dubai. Right. That's the plan I came here with. That was in 2010. I came here. I fell in love with the people. I fell in love with the culture. Such a beautiful country. I wanted to explore it. And I don't know, it just made me feel like home. For some odd reason, it made me feel like home. And I landed a job. I said, cool. Since then, I bought a house. My family lives here now. My children are born here now. Like, New Zealand is home for me. It's like I'm no more. I'll always be part Indian, but I identify as being a Kiwi.
Yeah. And that should be we need 1 million people like you, Andy, more. And that's something we have to talk about as well. Like, we do have to grow.
Yeah, 100%.
We have to grow.
100%.
We have to grow.
But Nick,
where?
I've had serious considerations about leaving in the last few years. I'm being brutally honest about it. I've considered going, what's going on here? Like, literally, there's no vision. There's like, where do I see New Zealand in the next 20 years? I can't answer that question. I don't have an answer to that question. I don't think anybody does. That's the problem.
That's the problem. I agree. And that concerns me to hear that.
Yep.
Because we do need 1 million more people like you who see the value and see the prospects here. But I think Kiwis have got to all of us have got to lift our mindsets up and go, if we're going to keep first world status, if we're going to be the sort of place that we want to stay, that I want to stay, you want to stay, where our kids want to stay, we have to have a plan, we have to have a vision, and then a plan, and we have to execute. And so, you talk about...
We spend more on planning than we do on execution.
Exactly,
Nick.
we spend
way more
planning.
on fucking
I know, it's painful. It's painful.
It's ridiculous. And like, how much did it cost us to come up with the plans for the Sky Bridge?
That's right. And
like how many of the projects like that are on the shelf right now?
But even, like Auckland Light Rail, like I think Auckland personally needs some form of mass transit.
Agreed.
But
light rail's not the solution.
But you don't build out in full public view and expect, because it allows it to be picked off politically. And this is where we need the discipline. Big nation building projects, because I'm a Wellingtonian, I'm from Aotearoa. When I think of home, I tend to look to the South Island because a lot of my family came from there. But my message to the rest of New Zealand is we need to invest in Auckland because Auckland is the economic powerhouse. We also need to build up our regions. The South Island is growing at the moment. It is prospering. But the South Island is not going to compete against Auckland. So each region or each subset of regions needs to have its own economic and social plan. It needs to have a partnership with the government to think about the next 30 years and ask, well, what is it? So what's Auckland about? What is Auckland? I mean, what do you think the offering of Auckland is to New Zealand and to our international markets?
So it's a financial capital.
Yep.
All right. Well, it may not be the actual capital of New Zealand. It 100% is a financial.
Absolutely.
This is where the work is.
It's where the people are.
The people are.
Population is. Scale.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's large spread because north of Auckland all the way to the south of Auckland's a 50 kilometer radius easily.
Yeah.
So 100 kilometers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a huge area.
That's right.
Mate, there's if you come into New Zealand, say an immigrant that's coming to New Zealand, I will not choose any other place to live in. My first priority would be choosing Auckland.
It's our only international city, right? It's
the works here.
Yeah, that's right. So we have to make Auckland, for the benefit of attraction and the benefit of the rest of the country, as good as it possibly can be, and that means infrastructure's at the core.
And that's coming from a Wellingtonian.
Well, don't get me started on Wellington, all right? It's got its own set of challenges, but
I really like Wellington, by the way. We try and go there for my birthday every year.
Do you? Well, that's good for you. No, look, Wellington is stunning, and it's its own special place. But every part of New Zealand has something to offer. There's
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You can look at every part of New Zealand and go, oh, actually, I could live there. These would be the benefits, and that's what we've got to draw out. But we've got to ask. So, if you are the Manawatu, Palmerston North, like food tech with Massey, that could be part of what their unique offering to New Zealand Inc. is. We all should be invested in helping to power that up, helping to sell that suite of products to the globe. And we're very parochial in this country, and I think it comes for the fact that we're long and thin. I think if we were concentrated, around a sort of one, island, and we all lived within a couple of hours of each other, it'd be different.
Yeah, we're very geographically, we're very diverse. Yeah.
We are, and with that dispersed population, it means that regional identities get built up, and iwi identities as well, and
that's
so we've
natural.
got a whole, yeah, exactly, it's perfectly natural. So we've got to recognise that there are great benefits about that make us distinct and interesting, and a great and respectively great places to live. But also, we tend to go into our corners and we don't collaborate and cooperate as a nation as we should. And I think that's what I talk about. Go back to mindset. You ask, well, how do we overcome the asset problem? All of this starts with mindset, and that's bloody difficult because it is not something that is easy to measure. It's not something, I would like to say it's an art, not a science, right? And so that takes leadership and vision. We've got to be prepared for politicians to actually tell us some home truths and lead us, if we trust them, into the future. We've got to empower regional leadership, local leadership, national leadership. And we've got to have a conversation as a nation about what kind of country we're going to become. What has New Zealand got other than, we've got stunning natural beauty, we're isolated, how do we turn that into a benefit?
That's very appealing to me,
right,
by the way.
But we've also got indigenous people here who make us different and distinct from the rest of the world. And actually that's what people come to visit, it's why people come to trade, they want to do business, and we've got a growing, iwi Māori are growing, that they are going to be infrastructure and economic, they already are in some cases, in many cases, players in their own right. And I talked about that division before. Well, actually, I want every New Zealander to recognise that, and it doesn't come from it comes from a pragmatic perspective, recognising actually that we have this thing called a treaty, and it does recognise that there were people that were here first.
Are you talking about the Waitangi Treaty?
Yeah, Treaty of Waitangi. So we've got to learn to live with that in a mature way.
I mean that treaty has its own challenges, but
well, of course it does, but if we respect it, and the other thing about a treaty that we often forget is that there were two partners, and actually you and me as a Pākehā New Zealander, and you as a more recent migrant, that treaty gives us our right to be here as well. And we don't talk about that enough, and we don't share. Actually, we don't celebrate it. We think it's all for Māori, and actually Māori have got their own identity and are quite, I think, increasingly confident in that. The other segment, the Crown, those of us that come under the Crown side, we need to think about our own distinct identities and our common New Zealand identity. And I think when we get confident in that, the answers to where are we going, and then what's the plan to invest, and how do we have the confidence to execute, will become clearer. These are, I realise I'm prodding, difficult and different issues, but I do think that is... I think it's an exciting opportunity, and it gives us an excuse to get around the table and be a bit more united. We're missing that at the moment. That is going to cost us. That's going to cost us.
It will, and if we can't fix that, we're going to have brain drain, which is already at its peak.
That's right.
And that's the outfall of what's actually happening.
That's right.
The lack of vision is causing mass amounts of exodus from New Zealand. Yeah. Skilled people.
That's right.
I'm talking about people that will pay huge amount of taxes, who are very skilled, who can add a lot of value to New Zealand, gapping it to Australia.
I agree. And beyond.
Yes, where the opportunities lie.
Yeah. And so, we've looked at, we go every year, Infrastructure New Zealand. We're a membership organisation.
Yes.
We take a group of leaders to another country. Not because we think everywhere else has got it made and, we're not.
Problems,
Everybody's got their own. So we look at the good things and the bad things. But what we find is that there are, nations like Ireland, and even Denmark and Singapore, their success is often driven by a crisis, by hitting rock bottom. Ireland, 50 years ago, sick of being poor, sick of being the bottom of the OECD. The first thing they did was power up education. So their population, were given the tools and built the tools themselves to be able to contribute economically and socially, not just to Ireland, but to the world.
Which is actually true. You have an Irish pub anywhere you go in the world now.
But they leveraged those relationships, right?
Yes, they did.
Everybody, and New Zealand has that opportunity. We have a unique culture here, both a Māori culture and our Pākehā and other migrant groups. We've got a Kiwi way of doing things. That's become we've got to lean into that. We are far away from most markets, but that means that tourism, in our beautiful natural environment,
less pollution,
exactly less, but it attracts people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are we good at? And you think about this, and you probably know this better than I do. Kiwis are actually well regarded around the world.
Massively.
Do you? Is that
100% true?
Yeah,
mate. I proudly wave my black passport now. I walk around now. Actually, I do.
Yeah.
I do. I'm really proud of the fact that I'm a Kiwi now.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of the fact that my children are Kiwis now. You know what I mean? Like, this is incredible. Like being a Kiwi is very highly regarded overseas.
Yes.
Doesn't matter whether I go to UK, Dubai, India, Malaysia. My wife's Malaysian, so even Malaysia. People ask me, I go, I'm from New Zealand, and they want to know everything about New Zealand. They want to come here. Can we give them a fucking reason to come here?
Exactly. And do business with us.
Yeah.
We do hide our light under a bushel, and so I think lifting ourselves up, being more confident, getting out there, selling our wares, those are the things that are going to lift our performance. And infrastructure. To come back to infrastructure. It's the way you get there. It is the means to that end. And we're doing it poorly, right? We've got skilled infrastructure professionals. I'm talking to one right now.
Yep.
We've got those in spades. It's not that we lack the people or the skills, but we lack the ways we work together to plan, fund, consent, design, and then execute under pressure. And a lot of that stems from politics.
I'll tell you the problem. It takes too long.
What is that length of time the extra length of time it takes? I mean, what do you think that costs? Yeah, what does it cost us?
It's mental.
It's billions. It's billions.
Oh, it's way more than that.
It's billions.
It's way more than that, mate. I'll tell you. So you go from paper to shovel on the ground. Like, I'm actually talking to a few of my colleagues in Dubai who work for huge construction companies there, and they want to start their substructure to build high-rise buildings the minute the substructure design is ready. Yeah. Do you know how long it takes us from when our design is ready before we actually put a spade in the ground for say an apartment block? Just take a while.
I don't know, 18 months.
Anywhere between 12 to 18 months.
Yeah. And what happens to the costs of every component and every bit of labour and every bit of material over that time?
Inflation hits.
It increases.
That's for sure.
It just gets...
No, but then you're just paying consultants that entire period. You're paying consultants. You're paying for compliance, regulatory compliance. You're going through your RMA reforms to get your resource consent approval. Then you got to get the EPA. Mate, I'll tell you, this is paperwork for fucking. This is insane.
Well,
and I get that we need controls in place. We don't want a leaky home crisis in our hand.
No.
That's the last thing any of us want. I get that.
No, and we need control. There has to be regulation.
Agreed.
And
I agree.
Rules. Yeah.
Yep. But
it's a balance. It's about a balance.
Yep. At what cost?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So
are we spending more in the delays to these consents than we are spending on a leaky home crisis?
Yeah, that's right. Well, we are, I suspect, on an annual basis.
Well, somebody's got to do the analysis, right?
Yeah.
And if they did the analysis,
but it isn't one choice or the other, is it? It's actually,
it isn't. It's
as
finding
you
the balance.
said, we don't have to go to a leaky home crisis, but we can do things faster. Do you know, it's not housing related, but we did a study of the project on State Highway 25A at the Coromandel. And the big weather event at the start of 2023.
Yes. Oh, that's the project, Cyclone Hale and Cyclone Gabriel?
That's right.
Those two cyclones?
So those two cyclones. Now, this State Highway 25A goes through the middle of the Coromandel from west to east.
Yep.
And the road got washed away. That cut off. You had to go, the workaround was hours of additional time.
That's what Trek fixing, aren't they? Transport Rebuild East Coast?
No, it's not an East Coast.
It's not an East Coast road?
It's not on
Sorry,
the East
okay.
Coast.
Maybe I'm confusing my road.
But they pushed together an alliance of parties in the infrastructure sector. The government said, NZTA said, look, we're going to do it. We'll get the consent retrospectively. Iwi were on board. Everybody was lined up. They were able to pull the materials from another project to build a bridge to replace the road that was washed out. And they got that done 3 months early and on budget. And we did a bit of an economic analysis. There was an $85 million benefit to the eastern side of the Coromandel that summer because it was done in time for summer. The locals there said that road not being there was worse than COVID for their communities.
Right.
Now, that's the benefit of when you do infrastructure faster. Now, what we need to do is take the wartime attitudes that were reflected with all the parties working together there and apply that more commonly. So actually, we know we've got to fix bridges. If we can standardise designs, get consent sorted out, we can do those much faster. They'll be cheaper, and actually, the people that use them and the economy that runs across them will be the beneficiaries.
Absolutely. The quicker you build, the more money you make, and it's more beneficial to the community.
And that's the point, right? Is communities get the benefit faster.
That's it's the motto of my entire company. That's why I have a consulting company today.
I might come and join you then.
Smarter, faster, better. So literally, it's written on my website. All right. I tell my team this all the time.
Smarter, faster, better.
Smarter, faster, better. We're all about efficiency. We're all about digitalization. We're not about the old ways of doing things. Fuck that.
Hallelujah.
It's smarter, faster, better. Literally, that's why I have a consulting company. But God's honest truth. There's no other reason. Yeah. So
I love it.
I quit Fletcher's and I started my company. Yeah.
I think, though, you do need to join Infrastructure New Zealand.
Do I?
Yeah.
I'm not part of Infrastructure New Zealand. Mate, I don't know if I can afford your fees there.
We're not steep fees, I can tell you.
What, 14 grand a year?
No. How many people do you employ?
7.
Yeah, no, we'll talk about that later, but it won't be.
Are you cutting me a deal there?
No, we don't do deals. We don't need to do deals, but don't worry, it'll be a good. I'll make it worth your while.
You make it worth my while?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I'm interested to hear more about that.
Well, the point is, our job is to tell the story, put up policy ideas, in a very open way, talk to the public about the benefits of infrastructure, but also the policy change we need. And we've talked about some of the changes that are needed.
Yeah.
Because, actually we represent the private sector and the public. We've got public sector members as well, because it's a public good we're talking about. It's a national good. But as I said to you right at the start, if we say to politicians, right, we want you to be more bipartisan. We want you to agree on more things in the infrastructure pipeline, and we should expect that agreement, by the way, for big projects and the system that is in place to build and fund those projects. That's fine, but if
where the next party doesn't come and upset
but if we expect politicians to make that change just because we ask them and because we think it's a good idea, we are pissing in the wind. What we need to do is talk to as many people out and New Zealanders about that and make that an expectation by all citizens that if we want to save money, get better value for money, get projects built faster so they're getting opportunities into businesses and into the community, make the country more productive, we need to expect it and demand it. And come election time, political parties, not all of them, but the main ones, need to understand that there will be a consequence unless they make the guarantee to commit to more bipartisanship. Now, it's not about asking them to agree on everything. There will always be politics in this stuff, but
of course there will
we
be.
can expect them to. We should expect them to get on more, and for when the government changes, because that's when the big problem is, that the party coming in, or the major parties coming in, don't upturn the apple cart,
which always happens,
just for the sake of politics, to say, look, we're distinct and different. Actually,
oh no, they upset the apple cart, rebrand it, and re-release the same projects 3 years later.
So let's stop politicising infrastructure. Infrastructure is the means to a better country. So let's politicise the ends. If they want to have a debate, let's have a debate around what the future of the country looks like, not how you get there, because that just costs us money.
So then you've got to ban political parties from campaigning on projects.
Well, you can't ban them because we're a democracy. But
we need to do
is we need to change the laws. We need to get public opinion to the point that it just switches off and says to politicians, if they start, politicising projects or politicising the system. So, we're not going to have public-private partnerships because, it contravenes our values or whatever. Fair enough position. But the public need to be able to rule on that and say, actually, we want a steady pipeline. As long as the government is in control of the build and the way that these projects are procured, we're actually comfortable with it. We need a new core of acceptance by New Zealanders. And that's the way we're going to be able to give that assurance to that international party that might come in and build something. Actually, they've got their act together. And don't tell me.
That's it.
Don't tell me this isn't possible. This is possible.
It's very easily possible. And
we can do it. We can do it.
PPPs. I mean, there's the Northern Corridor that's been released, which is on GETS, all over GETS, right. and that's going to be an amazing piece of infrastructure for New Zealand. Right. That's us connecting the Whangarei port all the way. It may not happen today, tomorrow, but But
it needs to be. It's a nation building project, as is some form of fast transport in Auckland. There are projects around the country that will help us prosper as a nation.
Oh yeah, and there's the NZ Up.
Yeah, project. That's right, and the new Auckland Harbour crossing. But then what happens is, and this is a fault of politicians, because we've got too managerial with our politics. We need some visionaries. It becomes, when you look at the additional Auckland Harbour crossing, it becomes, it should be a train. No, it should be a tunnel. No, it should be a bridge. Actually,
wait, how do you know what it should be?
Exactly.
Do you know the geotech conditions?
I don't. Do you?
Well, I don't, but I know a geotech engineer will have to go actually
That's
survey.
Right. So
I know the steps to get to
what
there.
What do we need? What do we need to ask? We want, the Auckland Harbour Bridge was an amazing, locally driven project, right? It carries 5% of New Zealand's GDP over it every day, but it will fail. And it carries critical infrastructure, if you think about data cabling and water and pipes and all those things. So we need an alternative.
And your closest route is now routed all the way around the West Harbour.
Right.
So that's the only way you can loop around.
That's right. So
there isn't another way.
So we need to do something.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. We don't have all the answers. Let's get some experts to put the options together, and then let's get not just political parties, but Auckland Council are vital. Others, iwi, others. Let's have an informed discussion, not a debate, and then allow, because it's a long-term multi-government nation-building project, get the other political parties.
That is 90% of infrastructure bills.
That's right. Nick? Well, maybe, but let's start with stuff that we can.
Agreed. Sorry,
that we can all identify.
No,
it's fine. It's look, it's back and forth. This right. It's the way you get the best ideas, but we need to bring all sides of politics and communities into that discussion to influence what comes out. And then when we get the decision made, we'll get commitment. But more importantly, we'll hold all sides to the road that's been chosen. I mean that figuratively, the road, not literally.
Bridge,
road, the bridge, road, whatever it is.
Yep.
We get that
Motor
buy-in,
transport.
because if we don't do that, then we risk project cancellation and silly ideas coming up. Look, it's just about communicating better, having good upfront discussions, understanding the objective that you're trying to achieve with a big infrastructure project. Why are we doing it? What do we hope to gain? If we start at that principle level and start at the vision, we want a country that's connected, we want a country that's productive, we want a country that's going to keep growing, well, these things become easier. And do you know what? I have to say this to you. I know I'm talking a lot.
That's
We've got to stop. You made the point about, we're better at planning than we are delivering.
Oh yes.
We also we
spend more in planning than we do in delivering.
That's right. But we've become a nation. Maybe we always were. I don't know. We've become a nation that celebrates the cancellation of projects and saying no, rather than saying yes and celebrating the wins and when we build stuff. And we do have to change that. And I think there's a streak of kind of, I'm going to be controversial, mean sort of Protestantism through New Zealand, and I can say that because I've got it in myself. But we want everything, it's the cost of everything. We're obsessed with the cost of everything. We don't think about value. And to take, that asset management sort of piece, if this road is going to last 50 years, or this classroom is going to last 100 years, or this hospital, we've got to invest up front to get the best value throughout the life of that piece of kit. And New Zealand has got this sense that we nickel and dime everything at the start, and it ends up costing us more. And we have to change that. We have to understand it's a long-term game.
One of my previous guests actually told me we are a value country. That's why warehouse today in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And that's why warehouse has that many.
That's what I mean. We love a deal. We love a deal.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. This is in me, and we've got to fight it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean gold plating everything. It's the last thing it means. We've got to standardize design. We've got to do better at not building, overbuilding and building big and over-engineering.
Yeah, faster consents.
Standardized
design. I fully agree. A lot of precast, which is also good, which is also quicker build. I mean, in most cases, he says. But yeah, and just technology. So one thing you're not talking about, technology.
Well, I want you to talk about technology.
You want me to?
I'm going to have a drink of water. So tell me about how technology and digital can really advance us.
I'm very passionate about this. This is something that's close to the heart for me. This is something I started my company with the vision to be more digital, and I'll tell you about a small product that we're working on, right? Okay, which is I don't think anybody else is working on the solution just yet. We take a 3D model, and we've used AI to figure out how to get an estimate directly from it.
Wow!
But we haven't stopped there. We go from that estimate to a project plan, because from the estimate will, if you've got like asset classifications, which is consistent across all projects, then your program then just becomes install steel, pour concrete. You're adding a verb to a noun.
And this, like, this is a practical, real thing that you are rolling out.
It's existent today. We've trialed it on 15 different projects, and I can't get anybody in New Zealand to go, yep, we'll pilot that. So I've taken it out of New Zealand.
So haven't you just described part of our problem?
Well, it is.
Mindset.
It is, 100%. It is. People just go, oh, this will replace me from a job. I don't think it'll replace you. You become the human in the loop check. Your job will change, yes, but everybody's job's going to evolve.
Exactly.
Like every single service provider out there, if they're not worried about their business collapsing in the next 2 years, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. like every single services industry.
We should be rejoicing in innovation, though.
Absolutely.
And leading it. Yep. Otherwise, we're going to be swamped as a country.
100%. But I just step back to my product that we're working on. So we get that, we generate that estimate, and we generate a task list, which just feeds into a program. But here's the beauty. The quantity is already there in the estimate. Quantity is divided by production rate. It'll give you the duration of how long it's supposed to take. Then it's just basic logic. We've been building shit since the pyramids. I can't build from the top down. I've got to start from my substructure and work my way up. I've got to do my finishes top down, which is pretty simple. It's not rocket science. We've been doing this for years, is what I'm trying to tell you. Right? All of this is all standardized ways of, you could tweak a small thing on how you do. You could use a tower crane, or you could use a different sort of crane. That's fine. But they're all accountable variables. Everything else is standard. It's not rocket science. It's not complex. It's building blocks.
That sounds very exciting.
Yeah. No, I'll show you what we're working on. I'll happily show you what we're working on. It's really exciting. It's really exciting. So we've actually partnered with an international company now because I've trialed it with about 15 different New Zealand companies, all the big ones. You name them, and pockets of them. Not because we're not fully ready either. We're like as we go with development. This is exciting for me though, because what we're doing is we want to reduce the cost of tendering. That's the vision. Yeah. Because if you look at any construction company out there, take Fletcher Construction, Downers, Fulton Hogan, okay, and you go in and look at the amount it costs them to put bids.
Absolutely, it's a big challenge for industry.
It's a massive issue, right? But then where does the bid cost come from? The capex budget. It doesn't come from anywhere else. So they're taking off the bottom line.
It's the more you eat into the cost of tendering, the more you're actually reducing the ability of the project to be funded.
Correct. But that's not the only problem though. Because when, say, as government, they put out a tender it gets, now there's 5 parties bidding for it. Yeah? The cost of tendering is times 5.
Yeah.
And if the tender's not prepared properly, what I'm trying to say, the tender information released could be 10 times better to reduce the cost on the construction companies.
It's a productivity drag on the nation.
Yeah, maybe a small issue, but I think it's a very important one that at least I'm a very small company, Nick. I'm not a huge company, but like
but that's what you drive to find ways of doing stuff better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's it. I still work out of my garage, by the way. If you didn't know, I don't have an office. Good. I'm like I love my garage. I'm not leaving my garage.
Great companies been built out of garages, right?
Yeah. But that's kind of the key focus in digitalization. Now, I believe digitalization will change our industry completely.
Right.
Yeah. And it's 3D models. It's mandating 3D models. It is. It's again, New Zealand consenting process. Where's a mandate for a 3D model? We don't enforce digitalization. If you don't enforce digitalization, if that doesn't exist, how are you then going to collect centralized data? How are you going to map your entire city in 3D? And that'll be really valuable. That'll be really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
The amount of surveys it'll save you, like literal fly-throughs. You've got assets neatly classified. I know I'm talking big vision here, but
that's what we need to be talking. That's great. This is the leadership we need.
Yeah, and again, it's disheartening that the vision for digitalization doesn't really exist. You know, it bothers me a little bit that it doesn't exist.
Well, I think as well, there's a sort of a desire to try and control it, and we're just not going to be able to control it. At a certain
what are you trying to control? AI?
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Hey,
yeah, like, but hey, listen, bureaucrats try and control everything. You know that.
You guys are funny. I mean, I'm an engineer, so for me, it's all quantum. It's there's a system, there's a process, but I'm learning that it's not that way with bureaucrats. Yeah, no. It's really interesting. Yeah, okay. I want to talk a little bit about New Zealand infrastructure. Okay, so if I was I'm a small company, yep. Why should I join New Zealand infrastructure?
Well, we are a place where the whole industry comes together, right? Mm-hmm. So for a small company, often that's the exposure to a network, to meet people that you can work with, peers, and other companies that you might get a contract from, but also infrastructure owners, so other clients, government. We bring people together, and we do that we have a lot of events.
That's really cool.
And we have a big Building Nations conference annually. We've just had that, 1,000 people. And what I'm hearing more and more is that that we're a place for cross-pollination. So, if you are a consulting engineer, you've got your association for that, which does a great job. And Infrastructure New Zealand is a complement because we're not trying to be your professional body. We are the advocacy body for the industry as a whole. And so we're generalist.
Yes.
We are leading thought. We're responding to ideas of the industry, and what we try and do is get the microphone and tell the story, but that's also really cool. Talk to decision makers and politicians, because we're not, despite some of the conversations we've had, what I've found about the industry and really liked was there's no kind of political agenda other than just doing infrastructure better. There isn't there isn't this sort of an ideological agenda. It's actually just getting more stuff done and getting better value. And everywhere in the industry I go, that is the message I get. So
that's probably the message you got from me too.
That's right. And so there's
smarter, faster, better.
I used to work for the trucking industry, right?
Oh, did you?
And they, it's that Kiwi thing of they just find reasons to divide themselves over stuff sometimes that isn't, that relevant. And what I loved about infrastructure, and look, the trucking industry does a great job for the country, so I'm not running them down in any way because they deliver fantastically. But I was just surprised when I came to infrastructure that there is people are united in purpose. They've got similar disciplines and values, and the different parts of the industry, are diverse, but they fit together quite well. And it's a joy actually to have an organisation that reflects that. We do those international learnings. We do these sort of study papers on particular innovations and projects. So we're constantly trying to tell the story, and hopefully lead some change. And so bipartisanship, getting the two major parties at least to agree on more, so there's stability in our pipeline, stability of what's built, faster builds.
I completely believe in that. If there's anything I can do to help, you've got my number.
That's our single. Well, bipartisanship. You talking about it in this forum and everywhere else that you influence, that's the biggest thing that we could do. And then having that idea as well about, what sort of country are we trying to become?
Yes.
Because we need that.
I'm passionate about it.
That's right.
I don't know if you can tell, I'm a passionate Kiwi, mate. I love this country.
I know.
I absolutely love this country.
And this is the point. It is not sitting around with our arms folded, waiting for politicians to come up with these answers. Newsflash. There are some. We've got some great politicians and some real thinkers.
They're not best suited to come up with these ideas.
But they're not.
They don't have all the information.
Time to come up with the ideas, and
they don't have the information either.
They don't have the information, and often they don't have the inclination, because it's easier to just divide over silly political things rather than have the big strong ideas and the to drive that you need to drive change and improvement. So look, it is up to all of us. It's up to all of us.
Yeah. Anyways, mate, I think that's us. We are out of time, but hey, I'd like to really thank you for that. That was a really engaging conversation. I actually enjoy that.
I'm pleased. I did too. It's a very. I think probably both of us could talk about the stuff for hours.
Yeah, and Lee's going to kick us out of the room very soon, but he's not.
Please, Lee, don't.
Please don't kick us out of the room. No, but I genuinely enjoyed that conversation, and hey, I wish you all the best. Well,
the same for you. I mean, we need businesses like yours to succeed, not just in infrastructure, but as a country, because we've got to work out the stuff that we do, that we are doing differently. I use that word innovation, but actually it's about what can we uniquely build here and then scale.
Yes, 100%. Absolutely. Fully agree. And New Zealand has the talent to do that.
It does.
It does.
Thanks to people like you.
Me? I'm a tiny drop in the ocean. I'm a nobody.
I know you're not really, because you're talking about it and you're sharing what you're doing. And look, I think we need to, as I said before, we need to sort of pull our shoulders back a bit and be proud of what we do produce. And so I think the more that you can talk about the interesting things you're doing and the work that you're doing, that will inspire other people to get into infrastructure. It will inform people about what's happening in infrastructure and why it's important to our daily lives. So I want to thank you for that.
I appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it. And likewise, please do keep in touch. And if there's any way we can help, happy to help. You bet. But again, thank you, Nick.
Thank you.